Welcome to Maxability. To unfold different layers of knowledge, stay tuned with us till the end of the video.
Mobile app accessibility, the common problems, and the way ahead. The topic for the day. Thanks all for joining. So about the presenter, so I am Rakesh Paladugula. I've been in the accessibility industry for quite some time, around 12 years now, and I've been playing different roles in this 12 years. I've been a test engineer and then being an auditor for accessibility and consultant, training, and a bit of product management. So currently I am the training manager for accessibility at Adobe. It's my day job, and I'm in doing these webinars for quite some time now, and this was a fifth one in a row. We do quarterly webinars, and thanks to Jack Nikolai, the one who had done this webinar on the design and the design impact of accessibility in the last quarter. And we're going to do such trainings in the future, and please subscribe to maxability.co.in if you wish to receive the future blog articles or webinars that we host here. Welcome all of you for this wonderful webinar on mobile app accessibility, trying to understand the preferences of persons with disabilities while using the mobiles and what are the common accessibility problems that they encounter. Thanks for your time this evening. It's going to take under 40 to 45 minutes, I believe. I haven't checked the time the slides are going to take, but definitely I feel we will have around 40 to 45 minutes. And if you have any questions, I would ask you to get on to the questions at the end of the session so that we can have a seamless experience. Thank you once again for joining and spending your time here to understand mobile app accessibility. Objective or the goal, or what is that you're going to achieve or understand by end of this session. For someone who hasn't been using mobile or doing the mobile app accessibility, I shouldn't say who is not using mobile, because literally probably there not be any person above age of 18 or 20 who might not be using a smartphone. So all that we're going to understand is how the mobile apps and the accessibility on mobile apps work. Assistive technologies that are used with conjunction with mobile apps. The assistive technologies are the software features or applications that are used by persons with disabilities when they are interacting with the mobile applications. Some of the examples are the screen reading technologies or screen magnifiers, resizing the fonts, background color changes, or any other assistive features that help the users to have a good experience with mobile applications. So most of these features are built into the operating systems. We'll talk about the common accessibility problems when you have a mobile app and the assistive technology that you want to use with your mobile. Both of them are available, but because of some problems that are created by the authors, knowingly or unknowingly, some of these may bring in very bad user experience to the end user. We'll try to analyze and understand what are those common accessibility problems. And a few key takeaways for the mobile developers, how to fix some of those issues. We are not going to deep dive into the mobile app development, but we'll fairly try to understand what are the documentations available or what information that can be understood, that can be read out by the mobile app developers to give a seamless and great user experience for persons with disabilities. So these are the broadly thing. These are things broadly you might be understanding throughout this webinar. So the background, what we have done, I believe in June, July, a few months back, is that we rolled out a survey from Maxability to understand the preferences of persons with disabilities and what are the common accessibility problems that they encounter while using these applications. These targeted users for the survey are the users with disabilities and the close acquaintances of people with disabilities. So when we rolled out this survey, we got a fairly good response, um, which is the fundamental or the foundation of this webinar. So it's not because of just my audit experiences or my personal experience I'm trying to bring in, but the survey results will be more useful as we get more perspectives of users. And if you are a person with disability and wish to be part of the future surveys, uh, more than welcome, and just message me. I will include you in the database where we're going to send the future webinars. Definitely, I would like you to be part of these surveys in the future so that we'll get more robust and more useful data to give to the developers and the direction. We also included some of the questions and get some insights from the groups that are specifically discussing the problems with persons with disabilities. It may be from the groups that are on the mailing list or more socially interacting WhatsApp groups. We got good number of respondents from there and great information to understand the glitches of mobile apps. I also have flavored some of those questions from the experience that I had as a mobile accessibility auditor. Did mobile accessibility audits in the past for almost 5 to 6 years or even more, where I had a understanding of what commonly the problems are encountered by people with disabilities when there are the mobile apps audited. So these are the background structure of having this survey, and I wish I feel this is a fairly good foundation to start a survey with or bring some more data points to the mobile app accessibility. Here are few things you might have to know before we jump into the actual statistics, because just to avoid some assumptions there, I might not be giving all the information that you might be thinking of, but I try to collate the information as much as possible. The focus is mainly on the native applications. We haven't tried to capture the experiences of the web views or the web pages on mobile, though we got some of those comments from people to specifically talk about the webinar, the web pages and the web views. In this particular survey or this presentation, we haven't included those results just to make a single point focus on mobile native apps. We also restricted the application to native Android and iOS applications. There might be more operating systems available in the market, but this is for quite obvious reasons. We have only selected the users of Android and iOS, not any other mobile operating system. We try to aggregate the results depending on the experiences. We haven't given any personally identifiable information, or we haven't captured any personal information throughout the presentation or in the white papers that we have published. So as I said, we have originally published this as a white paper. You can download it from Maxability. I have shared the link towards the end of this webinar. I'll share you that. You can also download the white paper to read and understand more insights about the mobile app accessibility. So diving into the actual survey results, um, here are some of the respondents and the disabilities that they have notified: blindness, low vision, color blindness, hearing, motor, and multiple disabilities. So fairly we could cover almost major disabilities that web accessibility or the digital accessibility requires. When we have got good number of people who are persons with blindness and the spectrum from the low vision, as well as for the color blindnesses and related anomalies. So we got the physical challenges with the people who have disabilities, and also um the multiple disabilities. Fairly good number of people have reported that they have both hearing and vision challenges. So the information that we try to capture did collect fairly from different disabilities. When it comes to the operating system usage, 44% of the participants or the respondents have indicated that they use iOS, the Apple operating system, and 56% of them have reported that they use Android. This is very much clear that there is a tough fight between iOS and Android as far as the users with disabilities are concerned. Um, this will give you a fair understanding that we cannot lean on any one operating system when we care about accessibility. Both the operating systems require the accessibility features and incorporation of accessibility um, solutions for the mobile applications. So um, probably you might be thinking it's not the uh, thought that you have in mind, because iOS seems to be the highest or better accessibility operating system from the past. But as I see the results, it is quite appealing that Android has picked up a lot, and maybe different user sets. And that's one reason I could think of why Android have increased. The other reason could be we had a good number of respondents from India. Being a developing country, perhaps people might not be using iPhones as much as they use the Android because of the varieties and the expense of the device that comes in with as a major factor of uh, affordability. So that's probably the reason both people with Android and iOS are competing with each other. The usage of assistive technology by the respondents, 30%, only 30% of the people indicated that they use only a screen reader as a feature. Screen reader plus voice recognition is 21%. So we did ask a question for voice recognition because there are fairly good number of applications like Siri, and of course the dictation with which people try to do some things on their mobile applications, like typing the message or filling in a form, etc. So I just try to capture the information about the voice recognition, and it's going to be more robust as we go on with the voice control system that is coming in iOS 13. I believe in the next 2-3 weeks we're going to have iOS 13, and voice control is something people are excited about. So which probably the voice recognition is going to be hyping up a little bit more as we do more surveys in the future. So 20% of the people indicated that they use the low vision features like the font adjustment or the contrast settings on the operating systems. External keyboard, people have also notified that they use external keyboard, wherein some people might not be comfortable using on-screen keyboards. And of course the captions, as we have notified some of the people who have hearing challenges, who specifically have thought about the captioning. So these are broadly the assistive technologies that are notified, assistive features that are notified by the end users. Coming to the capturing of the problems, the questions are specifically focused on depending on disability, while we have a large section of questions, I believe around 25 questions that are asked or even more. We try to segregate them on disability so that the end user can skip if they don't want to fill in a set of sections. Say for example, the first section is of course the personal information like the disability that they have. And the second section, we started with people who use screen readers, or people who have blindness fundamentally. And if a person is a completely visual person who can see completely, he is more than happy to skip that section, just not to have a junk of unwanted information, or just to say no, 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 and just don't want to waste their time. So we did have a sections depending on disability. If they are not of that disability category, they are more than happy to skip the section. We also try to capture the ratings of the problem that they have identified on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the most lower priority and 5 being the most painful task that they feel, so that we can understand the criticality of the problem as well. So the scaling of each of those problems that they identified, that they have encountered, they are also given an opportunity to rate the problem. We did also give a section where people are encouraged to add more information if we haven't captured any question and they think it is important. And we did get some responses from the end users as well. So coming as to the specific problems of accessibility, um, labels is the highest prioritized accessibility problem by the screen reader users. Um, Missing labels and improper labels are is identified as one of the critical problem by people who have disabilities. Around 75% of respondents have indicated that they have problems identifying the label. So we could understand that people who use voice recognition software and screen reading software, and sometimes people with low vision, also have mentioned that they have problems with the labels. So this 75% does not include the entire respondents, but only the respondents who have problems with the labeling, like the low vision or the screen reading technology users who depend on screen reader label or the accessibility label. This captured as a specific problem for the screen reading technology user, and definitely a critical problem as they have notified. To understand what I mean, the missing of labels, here is a short video. I'll play, just let me know if you don't listen or hear what the voiceover is announcing, let me know. Yeah, I guess you can't hear the voiceover. That we can't hear. Can't hear. You cannot hear?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, please go on mute.
No.
Playing it again.
Video.
Yeah, now it's audible.
Sort
of.
Yep.
Audible, sir.
Sure. Please go on mute. Yeah.
Video. Button. Button. Search people. Search field. Double tap to edit. Icon navigation at MSG. Button. Button. Possible text. Invite friends. Invite friends. Button. Possible text. New group video call. New group video call. Fob. 28. Friends. My story. Tap to add your story. Button.
So in this video, you would have heard a lot of areas where the screen reader is just saying button, which is a fair understanding of the button that does not have a label. When the screen reader user comes onto that button, he does not know what is that the action which is associated with that item. And some of those buttons are labeled improperly. So you don't understand, though the label is there, you don't understand what it is speaking about. The third thing is the voiceover is guessing some labels depending on the proximity of the values that are approximately with them, approximate distance, or in the recent the proximity of the button. The screen reader is trying to understand that might be the label, so which may or may not be. So that's what is about the labels and the for the UI controls. It's quite common on most of the inaccessible applications that buttons or images or links or any other control. In this example, we did see a button, but there might be more controls which may not have the label associated with their control. So here is a simple techniques that you can use on both iOS and Android platforms, how to fix the labels for the UI controls. It's often not so difficult, but it's because either the developers are not aware of the technique to fix it, or many other reason they might not be doing that. Accessibility label. Can you guys mute, please? Thank you. Accessibility label in iOS is a simple attribute that can be added to the control so that the screen reader user gets the additional information to activate or interact with the control. Android content description is the way someone can give a label to the control. It might be difficult in certain situations where the views or the values of the buttons are not native, are not specifically a little complex, where you have dynamic buttons, like you have play or pause. Only at a given point you will see play button or play as a label or pause as a label. So you can pass on the string value depending on the accessibility label, or the Android content description can be passed on as a string depending on the dynamic value that is populating. So the next one is about the type and the state. This type, we call it in different models in different operating systems. On a web, we call it as role. A button is a role, a link is a role, an image is a role, a heading is a role. The same item when it comes to iOS, it is called as a trait, and on Android, people may be using the word view or also a role. So depending on what type of control you are using, so you might have to use a trait or a role or a type depending on the operating system we are using. User should know whether it is interactive or not. That is why the role is important. So if it is not a button, I don't want to tap it. If the screen reader does not say it is a button, it's a problem. Sometimes it might also be in such a way that sometimes it is also a problem in such a way that you might have dual roles or improper roles also attributed to controls. So we'll see an example soon. 60% of the people or the respondents indicated that they have problems with the type and the state. So it's obviously important that the user should understand that a control requires an attribute of role or trait. And I often see in fairly good accessible apps also, for some reason, they don't add the roles or traits, maybe because of the label is obvious in certain cases. Like you see continue itself says that uh, it is an actionable or interactive control, but I urge people that don't assume that control will sufficiently enough for the user to understand that it's an interactive. If we add a button, role or trait to it, it will be obvious. So here is another video just showing you how the types and the states work.
85. IQR search phone. Button. Heading. Search for a name or number. Heading. Search field. Search and call any number. Your recent activity will show up here. Ike dialer open. Button. Selected. Home. Tab. 1 of 5. Chat. Tab. 2 of 5. Contacts. Tab. 3 of 5. Spam ID. 1 item. Tab. 4 of 5. Payments. Tab. 5 of 5.
If you have observed, when it has read the text box, it also read the heading along with it. So ideally a text box cannot be a heading, which is obvious mistake that the developers did here. It could be only a text box and probably a label before it. That's the missing or inappropriate role used. And coming to the next controls, at the bottom of the screen, you could hear the tabs. The screen reader is fairly reading good information that each of them is read out as a tab. And currently the home tab is selected. Selected is the state here. Whichever the control that is currently selected has to be announced as selected, and the role with it is the tab, and the label for it is home. So tab home selected is having all the 3 attributes: the role type, the label home, and the state selected. So as we change the tab, it has to shift from home to the next control and should be set as a selected. So as people can see and say which is selected and which of them are not selected, the same information has also need to be communicated to the mobile users or the screen reader users. As I said, the traits and roles has to be used. If you are using the native controls, the type and the state comes for free. You don't need to do anything specifically to add the role and type for these attributes. The custom controls are used. If the custom controls are used, we may have to add additional information such as the role and state. iOS set accessibility trait will give you a way to add the traits. Probably it might not give me enough time to talk about all the traits that are supplied by the operating systems, but you can definitely go on to the documentation of Android and iOS to understand what are the traits that are supplied by the operating system. You can use them use them for the custom controls. For Android, you can use Android content description and say button or heading, whatever that the type of element is. Be careful that you don't give a wrong information or wrong trait or role to the control, so that the user might get confused. The next one is the reading sequence, the sequence in which the content is read out by the screen reader. It's quite annoying for me in most of the apps that will not give me a sequential reading order, and that makes me understand the content very, very tough to use. As people who might not be using a screen reader or have never used a screen reader on mobile, when you switch on the talkback on Android or voiceover on the iOS device, flick from left to right will tell you that you are on the next item. Right to left will take you to the previous item. So that is how you understand the next control. Sighted users can tap on the control that they want, but for the screen reader user, they have to have a sequential reading order, top to bottom, and in a logical order. 55% of the end users have indicated that they have problems with the reading order. Sometimes the focus goes on more than one control. So example, it says button, or maybe view button, save button in a single swipe. And it will be difficult for the end user to tap on those. You don't know which item are you tapping on. Are you tapping on view button, or are you tapping on the save button? So if those comes into a different controls altogether, you get a different swipe, and you know which control are you swiping on. So it is fairly important that you need to have a good reading order. The elements are separated, and sometimes you also have to group the items together. Say like you have a song, the person who sung it, and the movie from which it is, more a genre. So of all those information are clubbed together, you might want only one single swipe to get all the information, and then having each of them read as a different control. So depending on the control or the item or the content, we might have to decide whether you need grouping or splitting into pieces, or the reading sequence of reading order. Here is a good example that will tell you what the reading order problem is. I'm playing it now.
Black Chena. 200 gm. Hyphen. 720 calories. Pick the quantity of food. But 1.0. Picker item. Adjustable. 4 of 4. Cup. Picker item. Adjustable. 1 of 4. Nutritional information. Proteins. Fats. Carbs. Fiber. 34.2 gm. 10.6 gm. 121.8 gm. 56.6 gm.
So if you see the last piece of it, it did talk about the protein values, the nutritional values of black chana. If you want to relate the information, it is tough to say which is fiber, which is carbs, which is proteins, etc., because all the labels are read sequentially and the values. So it is definitely a problem while you want to relate the content. If it says proteins 10 or fats 30 or carbs 20, it will be easy for the people to understand the relationship between the labels or the item and its value. As we have the DOM order in the screen reading for websites, similarly on mobiles also it is order in which the controls are placed. As I said, the first criteria that you need to look at is if the items are placed in the order in which the screen reader can read them. fundamentally control order. For Android, of course, the views, whatever the views that you are selecting should match the order. And as I said, if you want two buttons read as two separate buttons, you should have a different view for each of them. And if it is wrapped as a single view, you might have to say that this is a different focusable item and this is a different focusable item, so that the screen reader can identify that the buttons are different and gets a different stroke altogether, and as similar to the splitting as well. So here are a few other screen reader problems. The headings are not read out, which is again a problem of role. Hints, sometimes when you need, when the end user needs additional information about a control, which is supplied through the accessibility hint, is not provided in the inaccessible applications. Error identification, yeah, it's particularly when the user fills in a form control, and if they haven't filled it correctly, the error is displayed, but that is not shown as an alert, or the voiceover user or the talkback user is not aware that the error has been displayed. This is identified as one of the problems by the screen reader users. Sometimes the double tap to activate doesn't work. As you know, with the voiceover or talkback on, the tab becomes double tap to activate or interact with any control. Some of them have identified that or logged that the double tap doesn't work sometimes. So coming to the low vision problems, 65% says that font sizes cannot be adjusted on various applications. Of course, 15% says that they are not aware of the feature. Maybe they haven't explored the accessibility features up there. The dynamic sizes, if you are using the font styles that are dynamic on iOS, or the text views are provided in such a layouts that can be expanded. Here is a code snippet that I'm showing on the screen. Probably will share this presentation after the webinar. We can. Excuse me. Can you mute, please? Can someone mute all? Is that possible for you guys? One of these guys is talking.
No, you have to do it actually, Rakesh.
I'm trying to do that.
Yeah, you will have the control.
I know, yeah, I'm trying to do it, but I think he's now better. He's not talking, thankfully. Sorry. Yeah. Here is a code snippet which you can use on Android to say that these are this is how you allow the users to control the font views. Here is a code snippet, and on iOS it is a big topic by itself for iOS, because you have to select the dynamic font styles to display, and if you are using custom controls, there's a whole process of setting up those custom font styles as the dynamic ones. So we can talk offline if you would like to know more about it. The next one is about the color contrast. People tend to view the mobile device on high contrast mode or more comfortable contrasting mode. 65% of the people have identified that they have problems when they change the view to control high contrast mode or the maximum contrast modes. They might have problems with identifying the controls or identifying the content on the screen. So this is one of the problems which designers has to look at when they are designing the app screens. So a minimum contrast of 4.5:1 is what the the WCAG requirement says, but on mobile it might require a little more higher because people might be using it in daylight, or because people may be using in the smaller screens. It is more required probably. Maybe the working group might be looking at these requirements. So the other interesting problem that I see, which is a level triplet requirement in 2.1, is the proximity of tapping a wrong control because of the small sizes of icons. They might be tapping on a unwanted control because of the tremors in the hands, or because of the low vision that they have, or because of the fat fingers. There should be a sufficient area for the user to tap. 65% indicated that it is a problem for them. When it comes to fixing it, the WCAG requirements itself given a direction. It says that 44 by 44 pixels or CSS size is something which every icon should have, and it's a AAA requirement as a 2.5.5 AAA requirement. And also either you can have the icon size as 44 by 44 pixels, or the icon size including the untappable padding area around it together can have this area, so that the people will not be tapping on a wrong icon. The other accessibility concerns in general are no captions is definitely a concern that is notified by people who has hearing challenges. So people say the switch control is a bad experience. It again boils down to two fundamental testing methodologies with the external keyboard and also with the switch control. People have indicated that many apps does not have a better better usability by using the switch controls. Few of them also indicated that advertisements are distracting when they are using the apps. Yeah, this is a debatable concept because many of the free apps will run their advertisements, but people notified that advertisements and unnecessary information will take off their attention from the content. Very few definitely have identified that session timeouts is a problem, and I add +1 to it from my side, as when we fill in forms, especially when you're filling the forms in a logged in session, and after filling half of the form, and if the session times out, it is definitely a very difficult task to reinitiate the form and submit it. So session timeouts is definitely a problem. Adhering to the WCAG requirements of session timeouts or register timing adjustable might be a good idea to all the mobile developers. With that, we are almost done with the defects or the problems that people talked about. And here is the link for the white paper that you can download from the Maxability website, or you can just Google with or go to maxability.co.in and search for white papers. You should be definitely getting this paper up there. With that, I would probably stop my talk, and I would like you to point out to the Maxability website, maxability.co.in, and you can write to me, hello@maxability.co.in. It's a PowerPoint mistake that it always is say Mixability instead of Maxability. Just a correction there, Maxability, hello@maxability.co.in. You can follow me at max_ability if you are following on Twitter. On Facebook, facebook.com/maxability.co.in. So these are the ways you can just like us on Facebook, at maxability.co.in and follow us. And any questions or thoughts, anytime you can reach out to us at hello@maxability.co.in. With that, I would like to end the session and open for questions if you have any.
Hello, Rakesh.
Yes.
My question is,
Can you tell your name before you ask the question?
yeah, my name is Justin here.
Hi, Justin. Hi.
I want to know if AI can play any role by learning our disability preferences. Can it automatically enhance the font or do such and such things? Can AI play a role?
Definitely, AI will be playing a role. I'm not sure about the sizing and stuff, but definitely with the labels. And one of the problems that we just saw, the proximity identification of the label and the button, it's through the AI and understanding the proximity of the buttons. So sometimes, as you see on applications like Facebook, the images are identified and alternative text or the accessibility labels are automatically piled up there. Yes, there are possibilities of getting AI which can hook or break.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching and being with us. Please like and share the video. Don't forget to click on the bell icon. And also, for more updates, subscribe the channel.